Hello, everyone. Hey, so I'm Deborah Twiss. I'm here with my amazing crew and creator and my co-star, Jonathan Geffner, who actually is the creator and star. Ed Altman is one of the stars of Dummy Detective. I'm also in it, and I get to play the amazing Chloe Lake. We're here talking to you guys. We're having our own little three-way round table. Wish we could have more people here, DP, other people in the crew, but right now it's us on this very foggy, misty kind of spring morning here in the Northeast. So we're going to jump right into it and just start chatting about our amazing movie that we all met on, The Dummy Detective, as well as a lot of the different things that we have going on, and talk about the collaborations that we have planned together in the future. So let's go. Jonathan, why don't you start off by just telling us about the way The Dummy Detective originated? Like, where did this come from?
It's been a long process, long journey. I created these characters, the main characters in the movie, Trillo and Suede, a detective, a ventriloquist slash detective, and his wooden partner, Trillo and Suede, way back around 1995. And through the years, I've done a lot of all kinds of videos on social media, all kinds of little things and projects with these characters. But I, from the start, had greater visions, bigger visions of doing something on a larger scale, feature films and a TV series too. I wrote the pilot episode for a TV series way back shortly after that, creating the characters and also several, over the years, several feature film screenplays. Fast forward to just a couple of years ago, I finally was able to manage to shoot one of those feature films, and that is The Dummy Detective. Along the way, I did a couple of short films. In 2005, Oxford Park was my first produced short film, which takes place in England. I actually went there to shoot it. And then Casa Noir was more recently, a few years ago, a web series, 2 seasons of which I produced. This is all with the Trillo and Suede main characters. And also, I'm mixing up. Casa Noir was a short film, and then the Trillo and Suede web series, also within the past few years, 20 episodes of which I produced. And then finally, culminating to this point, in the main thing, the main event, is the current movie, The Dummy Detective.
Very, very cool. What was the thing that made you finally decide to like, okay, now is the time. It's now or never. Because there's always that moment for us filmmakers when we're like, okay, everything is pointing to the fact that I have to do this right now.
I really got to the point where I thought it would be never. I kind of threw in the towel with it because I had many attempts over the years to find ways to produce it, and it seemed like almost deals many times. Various producers and investors, people in the movie business who I got in touch with, who seemed to be very excited, expressed enthusiasm about the project, helping to get it funded. That's the main thing, the sticking point, money, how to get the money to do it, either a studio to do it or at least investors and whatnot. Every deal always fell through. An amazing Twilight Zone experience of deals that kept collapsing, it seemed at last minute. So it was very disappointing and frustrating. I was pricing out myself too to see if I might be able to self-fund it, to put all my chips in, to take the risk myself, to self-fund it just to get this done as my bucket list thing, at least one feature film of the several that I wrote. I had decided that no, just going to cost too much. I can't afford to risk that much money. But then Rob Margolis, who wound up being our director, and producer for the film, contacted me. He, I guess, came across my work and online and and liked it and sought me out and asked me if I have a feature film screenplay. So we talked. He proposed to me a budget which was much tighter, much smaller than anything I was able to price out myself. Turns out that Rob is an expert at shooting fast, fast and cheap, but still good quality. That revived the dream a bit. So, after he actually worked out a budget for this based on the script and presented to me, I thought, well, it's still a lot of money, but it's a lot less than I thought I'd have to spend. If you could do this, Rob, let's go ahead and do it. And we did it. An 11-day shoot, as you guys know, total 11 days, which was crazy. But that's part of the reason that it's can be done so cheaply, relatively cheaply.
Did Rob also find the crew? I mean, the lighting, the sound, as well as the location?
Yes, he did assemble the crew. The location we simultaneously found, actually, I was doing most of the scouting because Rob is in LA. That's where he's based, and I'm in New York. I was looking all over the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, even Connecticut, to find a suitable main location because we needed one primary location. So I came across this Les Saisons bed and breakfast that seemed to be the best suited of the many places I was looking at for our purposes, and within budget means we can get it cheaply to actually get to shoot there. But Rob online was looking. I think we kind of simultaneously came across this. We were communicating about, I was sending him photos and videos when I visited these places. And I think it was the same day that he texted me, "Hey, how about this one? Les Saison, that looks good." I said, "I just saw that today." And yes, I was going to tell you that this is a winner, I think, if we can lock this one down. So that's how the location came about.
No, I had the impression he was already aware of it because apparently Les Saisons has been around since like the 40s. I think Art Christensen, who runs it, his parents ran it and it was a hostel like for many years. And then in the last 20 years or so, he turned it into a bed and breakfast.
It was wild to me too, because like when we walked around it, because I was helping you with the props initially. And so we wanted to like, you wanted to show me the place with Abby Marshall. And we walked around and we were like, okay, so we're gonna have this room for this and this room for that. There are so many antiques and cool things there. And we were allowed to use everything. So it
Yeah.
made the job so much easier. It was really fun. That was really cool. And I mean, it was great too, having that location because so many people were able to actually stay there. I mean, that's where Rob stayed. That's where like Michael Fisher, the gaffer, stayed. Yuri, the DP, he stayed there. So many people were
Yeah.
able to
I
stay.
stayed there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it came
Yeah.
with breakfast.
Came with the actual bed and breakfast. I think it was a great setting for this movie, right? I mean, it really had the old
Yeah.
charm, vintage look to it, and as you're mentioning, the decor already and a lot of the antiques, it made Abby's job a lot easier. She's the art designer, but I mean, she did a really good job as well, adding things to it. And Deb, and you did a lot to help with that, with the production design and art design. I remember you were going to these antique stores for us and
Yeah,
finding a lot of
yeah, a lot of
tchotchkes.
different like thrift shops and things like that. And then
Yeah.
and also I made the cat, the effigy.
Yeah, well, you brought the real cat, and you also made the stand-in cat, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was pretty funny. I personally really enjoyed being in the film, and thank you again for a million times over for casting me. It's like one of my favorite things that I've ever done outside of making my own films. I've always wanted to play a femme fatale in a noir type of film, and boy, it was so great. And your writing was so excellent. So many of the lines just came so naturally out. Like there are many times I will get a script and it doesn't feel right. Like the words, it's hard to memorize some of the words because they're just so awkwardly written. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing I really, really loved about your script. Like it was so logical and it flowed so beautifully. So you could really tell that you were an intelligent writer, first of all, and that you really had worked on it very tightly. And I really appreciate that. Like that's something that a lot of times on an independent film you don't get as an actor. Don't you agree, Ed?
Yeah, no, and actually, I would add to that to say also all of the scenes I felt were very purposeful. Like there was always an objective, which makes it not necessarily easier, but you have more invested then in the scene and what you're trying to get, your objective or whatever. But yeah, but exactly, the clean writing made it easier to memorize because there wasn't a lot of extra stray, ridiculous words, and also just really knowing you were trying to get out of the scene. And I think that that drives the drama too.
Thank you. I'm glad you felt that way. And I'm blessed. First off, I have to make it clear that I'm blessed with both of you being in the movie because you were both wonderful, really perfect for the roles. So I couldn't be happier about your contributions to making it come to life. And yeah, with the writing, there were many drafts. So because I'd written the first draft 25 years ago. Of this movie, and through the years, I had gone through so many drafts and several drafts when we get close to shooting, trying to fine tune it and everything. So I put an awful lot of thought into it, trying to hone it down and as best as possible, refine it and all that. I'm glad that you both felt comfortable with the script, and also because of the fact that I'm a fan of noir. I love the film noir genre. And that's what inspired me to create these characters and create this universe in the first place, melding the world of ventriloquism with the film noir world to create this alternate universe. So yeah, I put a lot of thought into the style of the talk, how people talk, the banter in those days. But not only that, it's not, as I'm sure you're aware, it's very influenced by the noir pacing and style, but not entirely because I got some other influences. In this particular script, I wanted some of the flavor and feel of the British cozy mysteries, the Agatha Christie
Mhm,
type,
mhm.
so that is part of it woven into it, mainly as embodied by the character of Harriet Hubbard, the innkeeper, played by Sean Young, the iconic Sean Young. And that brings me to another thank you for Deb for acquiring for us Sean Young as a personal friend of yours. Deb is the one, you viewers out there should know, Deb is the one who made contact with Sean, who proposed that I see if we see if Sean would be interested. And luckily she was. So we got Sean Young to play that role.
I knew Sean since 2010, 2011, something like that, like forever. We worked together on another movie called Nick and Nicky, which is a very stylized, wacky gay drama with like beautiful wardrobe, and the guy worked so hard on that movie for gosh, 5 or 7 years, and then died of alcoholism in
Uh,
Mexico before the movie could actually come out. Very tragic guy and story. But Sean and I, we became really good friends. We were staying overnight because we were shooting at the Vanderbilt Mansion out on the North Shore of Long Island. And it was a 2-day shoot. So we stayed overnight at this motel that was like, it was all outside, like the doors were outside. So you could go room to room like that. And a bunch of the guys, like the director, Marcus Slaybine, and other crew people were all hanging out by a fire. They were all smoking pot. And Sean came and she tapped on my door with a bottle of wine. She's like, "Come on, I'm not into pot right now. Do you want to like drink this wine with me?" So we hung out in her room and we just like, we were having snacks, we were having cheese and fruit and crackers and drinking wine and laughing. It was the most amazing girls' night I had had in a long time. I mean, we must have talked for like 5 hours and then we bonded completely. And then we just started, I cast her in Confidence Game, that movie that I told you about with the Indian producer. That's the one with her and James McCaffrey. And to this day, that has not been allowed out. Regardless, one day it will come out, even if I have to reshoot it. It's a really great story. I'm also going to make it into a novel because I'm not precluded from doing that. But Sean and I became really good friends, and we've been in all these different things together. So when I read your script, she was the first person that came to mind when I read I Was Harriet. And I know that you were looking for someone that was a little bit like chunkier, a little older, like a little bit more of like a grandma type.
yeah.
But I only could see Sean, and I was like, please just think about it, Jonathan. Just think
Mm.
about it. And then you and Rob were talking, and you're like, oh, it could be really good. It could be really good. It's like, yeah, but what about like the rate and everything else? I'm like, look, it would be worth it. Whatever like you can do, it would be worth it to get her. I'm telling you. And I think she really nailed it. And the fact that she had never done a British accent in anything before, that really helped, bring it to the next level for her because it was a chance to really kind of experiment with a different kind of role. And I just think she was so great. She's so funny. She's
Mm.
so good at comedy. She's
Yeah.
really she's naturally just a very funny person. And I think when people are really intelligent, that makes comedy much easier to come by because you have to be like quick, you have to be witty. And if you've noticed, like many comedians actually become great actors because they just have that improbability. And, they're just so like their brains are just like on fire all the time. And Sean tends to be that. She just naturally tends to be that. So, there were all kinds of little moments she would come up with that were just so good that really, really nailed it. Yeah. And so I was
Yeah.
really thrilled that you guys wanted her. I adore her. I absolutely adore
Mm.
her, and I think she's
Yeah.
so fun.
No, and
I,
she was
I
and she
was
was great too. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was going to say I was happy to have her on board. The fact that she wanted to do it, even if she didn't do the English accent. She asked me about that if she's reading the script. So, oh, British accent here, and I quickly jumped in. Well, Sean, you don't have to do it because you'll be great even with an American accent. I'll change the script to reflect that, make her an American character. And she said, no, I'm going to try this. I think it will be fun. It turns out she did it great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's
It's
got
really
great
great.
instincts, and plus also she played the character, which is what makes it funny. She's also playing it straight. She's not going for the laughs, which is always the key to like really pulling off the comedy
Yeah,
because it really
right.
emphasizes the
Not
subtlety. One thing I would say also is she was also like just great on set. I mean, she made a point. She introduced herself to everyone, and people who may have been a little bit intimidated,
yeah.
whatever. She was always during meal times, was always filling plates for the crew and making sure that they got fed first before the rest of the cast behind her. I mean, she was really very magnanimous and just like a really like positive force on the set, and very always with little tips, little watch your lighting and just little things. It was she was great to have. She was great to work
Yeah,
with.
very,
Yeah. And
very, very pleasant company to be on with, to work with.
she's a member of the DGA. So she actually always intended to also be a director. And I'm very frustrated. Like there's many times I've been like, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. You should, definitely come in and direct this thing or that. And I really think that she just naturally has that ability, and I think she'd be a really fabulous director.
Mm.
So I think if we together can push her, I think we should make it happen, even if it's just like a play. We should do just like a one act and make her direct it, just so that she really gets that feeling. I think it'd be really fun. And I think it could even be kind of fun to do like a one act festival with the freaking puppets, man.
Yeah, the
What?
the Chain Festival's coming up for the summer. I don't know if you want to do it in the summer, but they do it twice a year and they accept scripts.
Oh my God, why don't we do it? And we make Sean direct it.
I have other feature film scripts ready, but maybe I can pare it down to something small, like a one act thing or one scene. Well, it depends how long this thing is.
I think it would be really fun and it would be a great time. And, to be her directorial debut would be huge.
Also,
Jonathan, I wanted to ask you something, just going back to the film a second. You're performing as a ventriloquist throughout the movie. What was that like? Because I remember at times during the shoot, you're like, your voice was starting to get a little tired. I mean, how
oh,
did you actually pace
I
that?
the biggest problem I had with my throat was when we were shooting the candlelit scenes. When the parlor had blackout, and then we had all these candles. I mean, real candles lit throughout the parlor because I'm very sensitive to smoke. I'm allergic to smoke. I can't even sit next to a fireplace. People enjoy the warmth of the fire, but I'm coughing. So I just have a real strong sensitivity to smoke, and it just ruins my throat. And so the thing is, we had all the candles, and I was struggling to even talk. And so yeah, that turned out to be a big problem. I didn't think about it. I mean, I wrote the scenes with the I didn't even think, oh, wait a second, this is going to be difficult for you. But there we were shooting it. So I had to just get through it, power through it. But yeah, that was the main problem.
So you were never a smoker.
No, I have a physical inability, I think, to even become a smoker. Luckily, I guess that's the one good side to that, is that it made it impossible for me to smoke.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
good. I smoked
Me too.
Oh,
American Spirits.
so you're both not smokers anymore?
No,
Well, good for you. You were able to. Was it hard quitting for
no.
each of you?
For me, no, for me, it wasn't either, really, surprisingly.
No, I don't really have an addictive personality for the most. Thank God. I mean, so
Uh,
many people have problems with all
yes.
kinds of things, but yeah, I'm very lucky that way. I have addicts in my life, so I don't need to be one.
Uh,
Not anymore though, not anymore. Okay, let's like be honest here.
yeah.
Different life, different world right now. It's good.
Well, I'm glad you have an addiction-free life now.
Yes, me too. It's quite calm. So also your daughter Sabrina, she was there at the auditions, which was great, and she's amazing. She's a sweetheart, and she's actually becoming an accomplished filmmaker herself. She was in film school at the time,
Yes,
correct?
she was going to School of Visual Arts here in New York. Then she graduated early last year, like it's a year and a half ago. Boy, time flies. She's an amazing talent, if I say so myself, even as a proud daddy. I mean, but it's not just me who's saying it. So I think I have objective confirmation in
I've seen
her
her film. I've seen a
extraordinary
couple of her
talent.
films.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
for example, in her senior year, everyone has to produce a thesis film, and her film won the top award in the whole graduating class. So it's not just me who thinks she's got exceptional talent. And right now she's working full time for a small independent production company that is producing a TV pilot. They just shot it, and now they're in the editing stage, where she's the co-writer and the director. She actually was
Wow.
trying to direct it.
That's
So,
massive.
yeah, it hopefully now once post is finished, it's going to be pitched to all these the networks and everybody. Hopefully Netflix or somebody's going to pick it up and actually produce it. So we hope that it has legs. But just to do the TV pilot itself, co-write and direct it is quite an achievement. It's a good milestone for her. And other things on the way. She's writing a feature film too, her own feature film. Hopefully she'll get that produced before long.
That's so nice. Well, and it's cool too because it was because of her that you were able to have so many SVA kids on the set.
Yes.
And they helped significantly. They were really good. I mean, like even Maura. What's Maura's last name?
Garnet.
Garnett.
Garnet, yes. She was absolutely fantastic. And I
Yeah.
think she works in
The AD.
casting primarily now, but she
Oh
was
yeah,
like
kids
one of the
mostly
best
cast.
ADs.
Right. She was wonderful. Sabrina had worked with her. She's one of her best friends in real life, so works out very nicely. And yeah, you had asked before about Rob, director slash producer. He did get most of the crew, but actually he relied on Sabrina to get a number of them, the SVA students. Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. Abby Marshall, who ended up doing the production design and took over props since I was on set. She is actually a very accomplished director herself too. So I mean, it's really pretty remarkable. And I believe a lot of our set photography was also done by one of the guys from SVA, and which was fascinating because
Oh,
remember
right.
he had a visual impairment. So to be a photographer and have like, very limited sight, that I thought
Yeah.
that was remarkable. That was just like it blew my mind. And his
Kevin
shots were
Fan.
good. Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin Fan. And yes, he's legally blind, whatever the threshold
Isn't
is.
that
So
insane? I mean,
yeah.
and his stuff was good.
Oh yeah. It is
Well,
kind of
Beethoven was
amazing.
deaf when he composed.
A what?
Beethoven was deaf when he composed.
Oh
True,
yeah,
true,
that's
true.
true.
Yes. I don't know if our photographer though, if he was always visually impaired.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But how do you focus if you can't really
I don't know. Well, from what I understand, I believe he's blind in one eye and totally, and he has limited vision in the other eye, and like very limited. So it's really
Well,
hard to
maybe it's enough
imagine.
that he can set up the shot, and then the focus happens automatically. So it's really
Yeah.
more composing the picture than the
Yeah,
actual.
I guess he has a good sense of composition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he says everything looks blurry to him. It can't be corrected with a lens. Yeah.
Wow,
But you had a
that's
friend
just
there taking Deb. You had a friend taking pictures there too. The guy actually whose apartment I think we filmed in for that scene in Crave.
yes. Rob Klein, who's been a friend of mine since I was like 18. He did my first pictures when I got to New York as a wee little baby. It was also Rob Klein who did our poster image. Remember, Jonathan? We did that
Yes,
shoot at Rob Klein's studio, and then it was my guy in Texas that did the final poster design with that
Sanjay,
poster. Yeah,
Sanjay Patel.
Sanjay is amazing. Sanjay Patel is actually really a fabulous poster
Hmm.
design guy.
Yeah,
So
did a
yeah.
great job with that. Yeah, I'm very pleased with our poster.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Deb and Ed, I wonder, have you done any roles that were similar to this, to your respective roles before, or was it very different from anything you've done before?
I tend to do a lot of, which is so funny if you know me personally. I tend to do a lot of like erotic thrillers and things like that. But I'm literally just like, I mean, I'm so not a slutty girl in any way. And like I have two kids that, they think that I'm just like a little kid too. They're like, "Oh, Debbie." And I talk about aliens and things like that, and they're like, "Oh, here we go again, Debbie." And
Mhm.
I've got like a ton of these little tiny chihuahuas that are all like the size of, beanie babies. So, it's so funny that I'm always cast as like the sexy MILF or, the femme fatale when like literally I'm the chick who just like wants to go and play with boys and climb trees and run around with my dogs.
Were you a tomboy when you were a kid? Were you?
I was a tomboy, but I even as a kid, like I would always play, like I would pretend to be like, Sonia, the sexy spy. Like rounded up all the boys and tied them to a tree and then threatened them to tell me where the money was.
You're a
I mean,
sexy tomboy.
yeah, yeah. It's like I mean, it's sort of like I came out this way, which is so funny. So yeah, this is definitely in my along my brand, but I never got to do something that was so exactly that. And so this was really fun, and it really was not. It wasn't difficult. The one thing I did love though was because of the way it was written and because of what the genre was, I was able to go and really study more like the dialect of actors, actresses in the
Mm.
1940s and 50s. I wanted to bring that kind of feel, that like, New England standard kind of dialect to this role. And so it was fun to be able to do that because this was the first time I'd been able to do that kind of thing. And that made it extra special for me, for sure.
Yeah, you really nailed it too. I was so
Oh, cool.
happy with
Thank
how you did
you.
it. And I know I've told you this anecdote some other time, but I want to repeat it right now for everybody to know that when we did the callback, your callback, after submitting the tapes, the audition tapes, and narrowed it down, did callbacks in a studio in Manhattan, and Sabrina was there with me, assisting me in the callbacks. I wanted her feedback and as well as just her help. I know she's had a very keen eye and ear for everything film related. And so after the callback for your role, the Chloe Lake role, turned to Sabrina. I said, "Well, I'm pretty sure Deb's the one, but let's review all the callback tapes just to make sure." And Sabrina said to me, "What's to review? There's nothing to review. Deb is obviously the one." Or Deborah, I guess we didn't know you generally referred to as Deb. So said Deborah's obviously the one. So why waste our time? And then I said, yeah, you're right. So let's just, so we didn't even review it. Just, yeah, I said, it has to be them.
That's so cool. Well, thank you. I mean, literally, and also, like I've said this in other interviews, but this is very true. My husband had died the year before in April, so I was only, 8 months or so into my recovery from that, and that September, 4 or 5 months prior to us shooting, was the first time in 20 years that I was completely alone in my house because both my kids were out at school. Dean didn't exist anymore, and I'd never, like, I didn't even remember what it was like to be alone. So when I auditioned for you, I'd been alone for like 2.5, 3 months, and I was auditioning for a lot of things and everything else. But I would have like my many nights a week kind of like breakdown and meltdown and crying and everything else. So getting cast in your project was kind of like the opening to, like, okay, here's your new life. Let's step
Mm.
into this new thing. And the fact that we really dove in January of 24, that was like, okay, 2023 is behind you. Let's go. It's like time to go and start the new life and embrace the new pathway.
Mm.
And so your film will always be like kind of like that pivot moment when I started to like actually see the light of who I might be as my own self, my
Oh,
new identity, not being a mom and a wife anymore. Really, I mean, my kids, I'll always be a mom, but
yeah,
you know what I mean. Like when the
right.
kids actually like go off, when they're not living in the house, it
Mm.
changes things.
Yeah,
So I went from like literally like a year and a half prior, there were four of us in the house, and then it was suddenly one, me. I'm like, whoa. I didn't even, I couldn't even remember what it felt like to be by myself. Crazy, crazy.
yeah.
So yeah, this was like a really wonderful thing. And every night when I came home from set, I'd have my doggies and I'd feed them and everything else, and then start working on the lines for the next day. And every time I did, I was like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, universe,
Oh,
thank you, God, thank you, Jonathan, thank you, thank you, thank you." I'm just so grateful, and I really was like that. Really helped me with what I needed to do to recover. Big deal. It's a
yeah.
big deal.
I'm so glad that it worked out so well for you in that way. In addition to your being a godsend for me and the movie. Yeah.
I think for all of us, there was a lot of special that this movie was about, you
Mm.
know? And so I'm so grateful for it in every way. Not to mention the fact that it turned out amazing. It just turned out really amazing. And everybody that I know that I'm friends with that has watched it, they're like, "Wow, that was really good."
Yeah, oh, I'm glad. I know most of the feedback has been very positive that I've seen also, and so is very gratifying, especially when it was such a long haul, and it was really something that I had given up on until finally a way presented itself to, okay, I'll make that plunge. And did it. So it's all for the good, as it turns out to be. And in fact, looking back, I believe that this movie turned out to be better than it would have been had I shot it many years ago, because the all the subsequent drafts and subsequent thought I put into it, I think did have a benefit that did help to make it even better eventually.
It's true. Like one of the things that I've found, because I'm a filmmaker, I've done so many movies, and I have so many different ideas all the time and different scripts that are ready to go. But it's like the moment that is absolutely right will always be the moment that you create the one project.
Mm.
And everything, like, that it's time when all the pieces just start to coalesce. It's almost like you're going through life and you have all these intentions, but it's that focus that all when the timing is right, that's when everything gets attracted to it. It's like a magnet, and you can't be stopped. It's amazing. It's really a really incredible process, this whole creation process. And I think it's really exciting too, because I've always thought to myself, I came to this conclusion many years ago, that if something feels difficult, if it doesn't feel like it's happening, it just means that the time is not right. It's not
Mm.
ripe. The fruit is not ripe to come off the tree. So you just got to let it sit there and do its thing. And when it's perfectly right and it's ripe, it will be easy. Well, as easy as it can be. Making a movie is like going to war. So it'll
Mm.
be an easier
Yeah.
battle than if you were trying to, go in and do it one man at war by himself. That's what it feels like. You've got a good team at least with you. And
I
Yeah.
think I completely agree with that, and I think also the team that you got with this, that maybe and maybe the people Rob helped bring in too, but certainly like the guys doing the lighting and everything, they created, the look of the film is as exceptional as the performances in it,
Yeah.
and the things that they did probably would have been much more expensive with people who were less innovative and less experimental and less like really thrilled with like getting absolutely the best possible shot they could.
Yes, Yuri Bathian, the DP cinematographer, was really amazing. He did an extraordinary job, so I'm so pleased. And he was so enthusiastic about it, which also warmed my heart. He had a lot of discussions with me, as well as with Rob, but Rob, the director. But I also liked that he also respected, my vision, my part of it. The fact that Yuri was very respectful, having read the script of like, exactly what, like he sent me lots of different images from different films. Like, is this more like what you want? Is this so? That he put so much care and effort into it. And then Michael Fisher was a wonderful gaffer, lighting person, and so they produced. I think visually, people look at this, they wouldn't believe how cheap this movie was shot. Yeah, relatively, how low the budget was.
And they'd also do like little sort of like, well, let's try this. Like, 'cause I remember like the scene where Dinky goes rogue on me when we're at the club and he starts mouthing out at the audience. He was saying, let's try this thing. And he had this little like glass prism that he dangled down, and then he had the shot is like a reflection of me freaking out and the dummy and everything. It's very Twilight Zone, very horror film like. But at the time that we did it, it was sort of like, this might be cool. And if it was something he thought on the spur of the moment, it was brilliant and it was very cool.
it's wild. They did you see they had this really cool case, and it was like this velvet case that was about this big, and when they opened it there were about six different prisms in it that
Oh,
were all
really?
different.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because it was also used in that scene when all the dummies are talking to you, Jonathan,
Yes. Yeah.
remember?
Mm.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
love that effect. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was so groundbreaking. And I love practical effects. I love when things are not done in post. That's easy. That to me, that's the easy way out. Like anybody, you see it with Hollywood,
Yeah.
these big things with like things blowing up and everything. Even last night at when I watched the Oscars, I shouldn't have. Anyway, I did.
Yeah.
And I really wanted Hamnet to sweep, and it's so sad. They had the visual effects Oscar. And I was like, what's the point? I mean, it looks like it's all assisted by AI at this point. So, what?
Uh-huh.
So basically, like you're rewarding someone for knowing how to like type in the right prompts. That's what it felt like. So it
Uh,
was like, when it's practical, like if people are doing practical effects, that is something that I think should have an Oscar. That should have
mm.
like, a category. That's what was on our set.
Mm.
Honestly,
Yeah,
it was,
it's
I loved
true.
it. I absolutely loved it. I think
Yeah,
it's like,
very creative guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, really good.
I want to ask both of you and Deb and Ed about the concept of the movie, how it struck you initially, and then if you did you feel different about it at any point during the shooting or after, because it is a very different concept. I mean, I think it's unique, the film noir influenced genre, but as a ventriloquist detective and the puppets coming ostensibly to life at points in the movie. And is it the question about whether is this in Trillo's the character's mind, or could it be that they are in some way autonomous, or that's the stuff I was throwing into the mix that I wanted to create that playing with the line between illusion and reality, and the absurdity too, the absurdist humor that I was going for too, about a ventriloquist detective with dummies, grilling suspects and stuff like that. So anyway, the whole concept of the movie. How did it strike you initially? Do you remember? Did it seem like weird, or were you skeptical, or was it just intriguing initially, or did you change your feeling about it at some point?
From the time I auditioned for it, I just sort of, I like the character and I sort of like the feel of it, the sort of, and which is actually the way it wound up looking being when it was filmed. I mean, for me, it kind of the way the film came out was exactly, if I
Hmm.
had to imagine what it was going to be like, it was like even before we started filming, it came out exactly as I would have thought
Hmm.
or I would have hoped that it did. I mean, just as far as the sets and the feel of it, and as far as working with the dummies,
Hmm.
it did not feel strange at all. I mean, plus, I had met with you beforehand because I had no experience with working with them, and you gave me some crash courses and let me take Dinky home
Yeah.
and freak my wife out. So that helped too. But to me, actually, the way the film came out was exactly as I hoped, it would, as far as the way it felt, the coziness, the ambience.
Hmm. Yeah, that how it came out too. I really am very pleased with it, especially this very micro budget movie that it turned out looking like such a Hollywood level kind of movie, and in all the aspects. I mean, how the dummies were shot, the scenes of Trillo imagining, or is it a dream or not? That kind of all that question. It just everything was shot so well. So I was really just so pleased with that. There's always the question though of the concept. I was a little self-conscious at that point. By the time we actually shot the movie, self-conscious about, are people going to buy this concept? Are we going to be able to sell the concept? Because I had gotten so much friction from people who I proposed this script to, and other scripts, the whole concept of the ventriloquist detective with his dummy partner, with people saying that it's too different, it's too weird. It's like I mean, starting with the very first rejection letter I got, which was a rejection email way back in the year 2000, I believe it was, from Sky TV, the British network. And I had submitted this to their acquisitions team, somehow got through to somebody who actually got the email from the head of acquisitions, or development. I guess it was development and acquisitions, because they would have had to develop it, for the proposal of making this a TV series. And I had a script for that purpose of a pilot. And this woman whose name I don't remember, but she gave me this lovely rejection, but it was still a rejection, where she praised it very highly of my script, saying it's brilliant and hilarious and all kinds of other nice things about it. She said, however, the concept is too different. No one's ever done this before. We don't want to take a chance on something that's so different. It's like, it's so frustrating. It's like, you said you loved it, but she's afraid, as everyone else was, as so many other people say, nah, this is too different from other stuff. Why are people so afraid of different? But that's the feedback I was getting a lot. So that's why I guess I was a little sensitive about that. People are going to think it's too weird, or they're not going to buy it or whatever. So I was
I
wondering
love it though. When I read it immediately, I was like, because I was very much into dolls and stuffed animals and things like that when I was little, and I would have everybody, like, up until, I mean, even at 15 years old, I would line up all my stuffed animals, all my dolls, and I'd say goodnight to them, and like cuddle in my bed with my dog. Like, I've always been somebody who was a little bit out there. I'm definitely weird, so this movie resonated with me from the very beginning, like from the very, very beginning. And I just thought, okay, finally somebody is as weird as I am. So I really love that line, actually, where I look at you and I say, and they say that you're weird. I'm like, I love that line so much. I think that's my favorite line in the movie because clearly Chloe Lake is freaking weird.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, and it's this moment of recognition. I enjoyed it so much, and it's exactly what I thought it was, and it turned out better than I hoped it could be.
Ah, I'm very glad that you felt that way.
It
So,
was so fun, just so much fun. I want to do more with these characters and these stories. I think it's you had the courage. You had the courage to actually do the thing. And now I think it set a standard. You know, enough people are watching it and saying, "Wow, this is really good." Regardless of what IMDb says, let's get into that and get into like
oh,
the
right.
distribution thing soon.
Yeah.
'Cause we need to expose that. We need
Yes.
to expose that. That's really important. But I think that you did what you set out to do, which is like prove the concept.
Yeah.
And now you can be in a position, I believe, to say, no, this is how it should be, and this is how it's going to be. And then just, you know, screw the world, honestly. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's my attitude anyway. I'm kind of like this rebellious, like I said, I'm the girl that would climb the trees. I do, and even now, like I'd go climb a tree in a heartbeat if I found the right one. So
Mm.
let's go. You know what I mean? Let's go do something that's gonna like tear up the world and do something a little different.
Yeah, I would
I love
love
it.
to do another one of my Trillo and Suede feature films that for which I've got three screenplays actually that are ready to go, so to speak. Of course, nothing's ever ready to go until you shoot it. There would still be tweaking and drafts, but I mean, pretty much so written at least the main thing. And TV series. I mean, still that's a dream that would be great. To one or the other of those would be great. But even if I never do get the opportunity to go further with it, it's very gratifying that at least I did one, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And it is a proof of concept that people can't sort of deny anymore. Because my short films, I did two short films. One I mentioned, I think, Oxford Park in 2005. It's a 15-minute film, and then a 22-minute film, Casa Noir, just a few years ago, to 2021, or I think it was 2022 maybe. They were both meant to be, in my mind, proof of concepts too, that I could use them, and I tried to use them to pitch people. See this to do the feature films or the TV series that like you see now that's what it's going to look like. That's what it's going to feel like, and somehow I wasn't able to find any takers for to do something bigger with either of those. So I kept thinking like, well, is that not enough of proof of concept because it's only short films and then they got the web series? But so it was like, can they not imagine what it would be as a feature? But now this is the whole deal. This is a feature film with Trillo and Suede. If you can't imagine, you have nothing to imagine anymore. That's
Yeah.
how it is. So like,
Yeah.
you don't want it, you don't want it, but there it is.
Well, I have to say something too, then. This is really important because a lot of times, you know, I hear young filmmakers talk about this kind of thing where they're like, I'm going to take $50,000 and make this amazing 10-minute short so that I can get $1 million to make my feature. And I've told people millions of times, I'm like, you'd be better off finding the way to make your feature for that
Mm.
$50,000 than making a short and hoping for 1 million. Because no
Yeah.
one's going to give you a fucking $1 million.
Yeah.
Sorry to tell you and bring you back down to planet Earth, but that is the fact. That is the truth. And
Mm.
if you can prove that you can make a feature for $50,000, people are more likely then to give you maybe $200,000 for something. But you're
Yeah.
not going to go from 0 to 1 million. And that is the really messed up concept that so many young filmmakers are out there trying to create with. And I find that incredibly frustrating as somebody who, you know, has watched all this stuff. And yeah, I don't even give
Yeah,
much,
it's true.
you
I
know.
found out the hard way about that because I got some of that specific feedback. I mean, I got some mostly really good feedback about both of those shorts that I did, Oxford Park and Casa Noir, where people would say, "Oh yeah, this is great. Really like this, but I don't know if it would work as a feature." Oh, it's like, but it works as a short. But I don't know if it works. So I think, okay, you've got to see the feature. That seems like a lot of people they don't have the imagination. It's,
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, the feature is going to stand for itself. Now, the thing too, though, is you ended up going kind of rogue with your distribution. You had a couple,
uh,
you know, deals on the table, and there's a lot that goes into that. You ended up going through Film Hub, correct?
yes. Film Hub is distributing the movie.
And
So
can you talk about that?
momentum might be building very soon because the reports are coming in from the initial distributors only on a couple of platforms, but now more and more being added. So hopefully soon that's going to really pick up. But let's see. It started off on Amazon Prime. There are a lot of little platforms that gradually have been added. They're not very well known, but they all will help. Woku is one of them, and then there's Fossum, Future Today, Relay, not so well known, but they're all places where people can see the movie. But then Tubi more recently. So Tubi's a really good one, a big one, well-known one. And then also Plex, it just got onto Plex very recently. That's in 130 countries. So I don't have any reports yet from Plex, but I'm hoping the report soon will show that it's picking up, since it's available so widespread through Plex TV. So that's a good one.
It's
And more,
very interesting. So have you gotten your reports yet from Tubi?
yeah,
Oh,
it's hopeful. It's doing better on Tubi than the other platforms
yeah, Tubi.
initially.
For me, my stuff that I do with my distributor, Breaking Glass Pictures, everything that's on Tubi and Peacock does the very best
Mm.
out of everywhere else throughout. I mean, unless it goes to like German television. Like I had a slew of things that were just sold to German
Oh,
television. So, that's a better kind of quick hit kind of payoff, really.
yeah.
But
We'll see soon. Hopefully that will
yeah.
pick up. It's not on Peacock yet. I'm not sure if it will be. Film Hub
Peacock is a pay
pitches.
service. You have to pay for Peacock, right?
It's a subscription based thing,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh,
definitely. So
yeah.
you should be able to get some decent money off Peacock. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
that.
hope it gets on there because Film Hub pitches and it depends who makes the deal. It still might be. I just don't know. They don't give feedback about whether you're like, we're working on a deal with this one or that. It's just like all of a sudden it appears on the updates like, oh, now you're on. We did a deal with Tubi. We did a deal with Stash is another one. I know Stash TV. Do you know that one?
You don't.
That's another one. Just got a license for them, so it'll be on Stash TV soon, and hopefully some more. So
Nice, very
we'll see.
cool. Now let's talk about this issue with IMDb because this is really pissing me off quite a bit and with my own films. And we need to expose this. I think this is really critical because a lot of filmmakers out there are seeing that their movie gets off to a great start. It gets like ratings of like 7 to 8 to 9, sometimes 10 out of 10. And then all of a sudden there's like tons of reviews and you've got 2.5. I have one film, Sapiosexual, that started out super hot, and then now it's down to 2.5. And now I've been getting all these messages from people that can help my IMDb score
Hmm.
on my films. And it's been exposed that these are bots that are created by these people that are actually coming to sell the solution. And Ed, you named it perfectly before we got on this call, which is, this is a form of like mafia almost.
Yeah, they're scammers, and that's their ploy. That's their tactic. Same thing. That's what's happening to the dummy detective right now. Unfortunately, I started seeing. Initially, we got very good scores, the high scores, on average. But then all of a sudden, we got this slew of very low ratings, and was poured. Went down from like 8.5 down to 3.5 or 4 of aggregate scores. And then I was wondering, what happened? Why all of a sudden everybody hates this movie? And then I started getting emails. I see that your IMDb ratings are low. I can help you if you hire me. I said, oh, it's a scam. I started Googling. I see a lot of people are victims to these scams. What they do, they lower the score. They review bomb you with low scores. Then they contact you and say, yeah, I can fix it. Just like,
You see, and I don't understand why IMDb does not take this more seriously because people
no.
pay for their service. They're supposedly like a source of credibility for the history and all the information about a film. And if they're allowing this to happen, it's like any vendor you do business with. If they can't provide basic network security on their platform, what good are they? It seems
Yeah.
like it would be in their interest to clean this up because people are just going to find alternates, or I imagine they could be sued.
I don't know. I guess maybe you can't prove anything. I did
Sure
contact.
they can. I mean, if they can track network traffic. There's ways of doing that. I'm sure there is.
Mm.
Oh yeah, especially now with all the AI stuff going on.
Well,
Well, not only that,
IMDb.
but they know who's posting. I mean, they can.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who spoofs, a web address or a URL or an IP address, there's ways of finding that out.
Yeah.
IMDb has what they call the weighted and unweighted scores of the ratings, and the unweighted is just the raw scores that come in, and weighted is supposedly what they compensate for fake scores, either fake high scores. You know, if you just everybody gets their mother and to give you a fake high one, and the low ones from scammers and trolls and things like that. So they say, oh, we even out. But the interesting thing I read about, which is bad, is that they discount a lot of scores from people who only have one, like this is the first time they rated something or the second time, and they give a lot more credence to, they weight heavier scores from people who have rated a lot of movies. What that means is that a lot of people, in my case, that hurt me because my weighted score, I think right now my weighted score is 5.5, no, unweighted, just the raw score is 5.5, which is already brought down a lot by the scammers, but it's still it's 5.5. But then the weighted score is 4.3, which means that they are trusting the scammers ratings more than legitimate ones. You
Yes.
know, legitimate people who maybe didn't rate a movie before, maybe rated one other movie, and they were inspired to rate this one. They don't trust that. But the scammers who go around scamming all the films, they trust that because they're giving ratings on a lot of films.
No,
I
it's
think
really, that's so twisted. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
completely wrong.
I think
yeah,
with IMDb, what they need to do if they really want to get to the bottom of this is they got to remove all the ratings and the user reviews and just let people start complaining about, well, where have these all gone? And say until they actually figure out a way to keep it legitimate, that fine. You can go to a review site if you want to read a review of the movie, but you're not going to come here to, get ratings or anything because they're worthless.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ed. I think that would be like, there needs to
And
be
the other thing
something.
also, I know I'm saying this and you think I'm just trying to cheer you up, but personally, I don't go to IMDb to look for something to watch. I mean, I go to look up an
Yeah.
actor or to look up a director or to see what other work someone has done. The reviews, I don't pay, I'll look at critical reviews if I'm that interested, but the user stuff and the ratings really don't mean that much to me anyway.
Yeah, the
Well, it's
problem is that
funny.
there's some sites where they just post it automatically, the IMDb ratings, and so that's like on Amazon, they just have it up there. I don't see a way to remove it. I haven't found a way to remove it. So it's like they see it on Amazon Prime, and there's an IMDb rating 4.3. It's I know. Hopefully not. I'm not losing a lot of views. I'm sure I'm losing some though. People say, that doesn't look so good, you know.
Did you were you the one who created the entry on IMDb or did
Yes.
Rob do that? You
Yeah, I
did it.
did.
Okay.
Not my strong point. I'm very bad at that. It was a
It's very hard to
nightmare
do.
trying to do that. I mean, I know a lot of people also say that it's very counterintuitive, a lot of things. It's very hard to figure out. And I'm just bad at that in general, anything like that. So it's like, it drove me crazy. But yeah, I eventually put up all that information. Yeah. So I don't know what we could do about it. Just have to live with it and hope that people who do enjoy it do go there. Viewers out there, if you enjoy the movie, please go rate it on IMDb and also Rotten Tomatoes because that can be very helpful if you get a lot of reviews on is it positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your own journeys as actors, Deb? Like, how and when did you become an actor, and what inspired you, and also any other experiences that stand out in particular in your development in your career?
I feel like I've talked too much. I want Ed to go first.
Okay, I could go first.
I hate the word journey. I'm sorry. I just can't stand talking about my journey.
My
It's like,
journey.
yeah, I should be wearing a hat and be in the desert. Um, I mean, for me, it was just something I just always knew I wanted to do. But in my case, I mean, probably unlike most people, it wasn't like if I could not be an actor, that was going to be the end of my life. And I think in a way, I mean, anyone who's younger than me who, was going into theater or something, I say, if you really feel like this is the only thing you could possibly want to do, then you've got to do it and just go at it with both guns drawn and just do whatever it takes. For me, the thing that I always felt about it was that it was the hardest work there is to do it properly. And to really, when you're really working on it and you're really trying to, develop a process and be connected with yourself on stage and be like in the moment and all the other, cliches we talk about, it's one of the hardest things to do. And when it comes off, it's like one of the most rewarding things you could possibly imagine. So that's the kind of like a genuine adrenaline flow that has always meant a lot to me. And for me also, it's just also getting like really good roles and getting to work with really good people. So I mean, working, with you and Deb and Dummy Detective has been one of the real highlights. It's a legacy, it's good work. and it's put me in contact with people. I worked with Deb on one of her films, and hopefully there'll be more. And actually, I worked with Sean on another film that we also filmed at Les Saison. So it's all good.
Any other roles, experiences, characters that you've played that stand out in particular to you, or
Well, actually, in answer to your earlier question, I mean, the roles I've always been cast in have been kind of these sort of like nerdy, sort of withdrawn, sort of similar to Elliot Black characters,
Mm.
or I'm playing out there bastard politicians or bastard lawyers or smooth talkers. So I've been sort of one or the other, which I suppose is not really all that unusual. And it was interesting when we were filming this, we were in rehearsals for another play thing called Honor, which was a completely different character. So it was actually really interesting kind of bouncing the two personas off each other and rehearsing them at the same time. The other roles that stick out for me are like the very first film I was in was a film called Swoon in 1992 that actually got a lot of airplay. It was about the Leopold Loeb murder case.
Oh, yeah.
There was a movie Rope. Alfred Hitchcock did a version of it too.
Mm.
So I played the murderer's older brother. It was released through New Line Cinema, and it was like shown on PBS and made the film circuit and all. Thing that I find most frustrating about this, and it's sort of like what I'm experiencing now, is you go through periods where you've got a lot of work going on. It's work that you love. You just can't imagine like anything other than this. And then 7 months go by and it's like much quieter. And you're auditioning and you feel like you're doing good work and things just don't click. And maybe it's to what Deb was saying before about, when the time is right and the pieces are on offer, that's when it actually gestates. Other than that, maybe it's not ready, or maybe it's just the wrong time or something. I don't know.
How would you describe your character in The Dummy Detective? Your own feeling or concept about, I mean, as the writer, I can describe him, but I just wonder how you would. Like, who is this guy if you were introducing him? Like, what kind of person is he? What's
To
going
me,
on?
he seemed like someone who was always a bit of a loner and a little bit of an oddball, lived always very much in his own world. And actually, by being a ventriloquist, he was able to control the dummy so that they just sort of expanded his own inner world, but it was still very private.
Hmm.
He struck me as always being well-meaning, but kind of paranoid. And when his dummy turns on him, not only is it to him embarrassing and humiliating, but it was also surprising, like extremely hurtful.
Mm.
So for him, I see he's someone who's just trying to kind of live live quietly, continue licking his wounds, try to make sense out of what happened, but at the same time being very content to be completely isolated and withdrawn and living in this cozy little nook at the top of this inn in some godforsaken place in New York State.
Mm.
So I mean to me, I mean personally, I see it as sort of like I could see living like that. I mean, it's kind of like a cozy, kind of reclusive existence, but it's also something sad, very
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, well, that's a very good description. I like that. I think you probably articulated that better than I would. I can't always find the right words for certain things in just you know like off the cuff sort of thing. I think I'm good at writing when I think about it, to phrase, but off the cuff very often I get tongue-tied. But I think
Yeah, but
you
I think you
described.
felt it because you couldn't have written the dialogue and sort of made it to be brought out that way unless you already you had already kind of touched on each of those points. I
Oh
think.
yeah, I was very aware of those things. I'm saying that I think you described them very well
Yeah.
how I see him also.
Did you see him when you're writing him as sort of like a counterpoint to Trillo? I mean, as like sort of like the darker side of being a ventriloquist. I mean, was this something that was a real fear, or was it added more just for dramatic, dynamic, or
He was a variation and like a cautionary tale version of Trillo. Like, and that's what Trillo was afraid of. He was terrified that he's becoming Elliot Black. So it's like he was already under a lot of stress. Trillo has his own demons, but they also share one particular demon is fear for their own sanity, being afraid that he's going mad. And there was Ellie Black who has gone farther down that path already. So it's something that adds to Trillo's anxiety and dis disconcerting feeling.
yeah.
Deb, would you like to talk a little bit tell us a little bit about your journey, and not just as acting, because also maybe a little bit more about your your writing and filmmaking and directing because you're a very talented filmmaker in many capacities. I mean, you've made how many films now of your own that you've written and directed and even
Um,
edited?
8 maybe features.
Wow,
And then
that's
a
amazing.
series, Crazy Town,
Yeah,
which
that
is
too.
7 episodes, 30 minutes each. This all started when I was 3, and I was standing in front of the television, and my parents were watching, and I was obsessed with what was going on inside. I turned to my parents and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be inside there playing with those people. And my mom laughed and she said, oh, you can only do that if you're an actress. And I was like, actress? Okay, that's what I'm going to be. I was fascinated by story. I'm obsessed with story. And I would love when my aunts, who were my grandmother's sisters, who were raising me, my parents had me when they were 17 and 19. So they were really young. And my dad was
Wow.
in college at Villanova. My mom was working. They were doing a lot of things. So I would be left with my aunts, my grandmother's sisters. My grandmother died before I was born. They would tell me all these cool stories. They were these Polish women. And I think they were actually born in Poland because they spoke Polish and everything else, but they would tell me all these really cool stories, and I would just like lay there on the bed, and they'd like tell me these beautiful fairy tales and like Bible stories and really cool things. And so when I was about 4, I guess maybe even earlier, yeah, because I started to learn how to write when I was 3. But I asked my mom to start to teach me how to write because I wanted to write stories. And so my mom taught me how to write. And so by the time I was like 4 and a half, I was able to write like paragraphs and things like that. So when it was time for me to go to school, I was all excited to be able to start writing stories in school. And so they immediately said, well, you don't need to be in kindergarten. You should just go right into first grade. So I get into first grade, and my teacher, Mrs. Crisafulli, evil, awful human being, we had to make
Name.
puppets. Actually, we made puppets, and she was going to then write scripts for us to perform these shows for our puppets. And I had this witch that I made to look like her. and, and she gave me the script, and I hated the script, and I said, "This is really stupid. I want to rewrite it." And she was offended. So I packed it up, I took it home with me, and I told my mom, I said, I want to rewrite this script. I think it's awful. And so, I mean, I was literally 5. I was at 5 in first grade. I rewrote the script, and I brought it back, and the teacher, she agreed that it was better, but she hated me. Like I had the worst first grade of any child. But I got to do what I wanted, and it turned out really good, and I was proud of like what my puppet was saying. And then we moved around a lot. So in 3rd grade, 4th grade. In 4th grade, we were in this, I was at this school, and they had a spring ensemble performance that happened every year. And they would take like different skits and people that would play instruments or whatever. So our art teacher said to us, look, if you want to write a skit for the spring ensemble performance, maybe it'll be put up. So you can, submit it. So I was all excited. I'd had this idea already about a full length play about time travel. So I went home and I told my dad, I said, I need to learn how to use the typewriter, and I'm going to write a play. And my dad's like, wait, what? And I was like, I need to write a play. And so he got me everything. He taught me how to do it. Took me a while to get good because I had to do hunt and peck. I hadn't learned how to type properly yet. But I did a 60-page play, and I brought it to the school. They loved it. And so they decided that they wanted to build the entire spring ensemble show around this play because it would involve a lot of different characters and musicians and all things like that. But there were 2 female leads, and they said, would you allow us to put this up? And I said, well, yeah, but only if I get to play one of the leads. And so that's how my filmmaking and acting career actually began. And then I did a ton of other plays. Every place we moved, I would get involved in the drama or this or that or whatever. And in the meantime, I would, with my brothers, we would play there were these things called adventure people, and they were the same size as Star Wars people. And they had this really cool adventure people set up that was a news team. So they had an actual camera and you could look through the camera and this guy would sit in the camera and everything. And like there was different scaffolding and everything. So you could put the camera up and there was this woman that had like a microphone. So I took all our Star Wars people and all our adventure people and I put them all together. And so I was having this amazing movie shoot for pretend with my brothers that we were doing with the Star Wars people and the adventure people. And it was so cool. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want my life to be. So I was about 11 at that time. When I got into NYU to study acting, I was with my dad, and my dad said to me, I'm really scared that, you're going to go to New York and you're going to try to be an actress and it's not going to work. And then you're going to end up, waitressing or driving a taxi. And I was like, Daddy, don't worry. About a year after I'm there, when I see like how difficult it is, I'm just going to start making my own movies and I will star in them. So just don't worry. And he was like, Deb, that sounds even harder. And I was like, don't worry, Daddy. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. So yeah, it's been a really great journey. But the beauty of it is exactly where I came up with that whole concept about how things need to ripen. So I like having the ability to be, I write, I direct, I produce. I've helped other people with things. I have different pseudonyms I go under, like Freckles Charrington is one of my crew names. Allison Clay Spencer is another one because I don't like to have my name like 5,000 times on a credit roll. I think it's obnoxious and it makes me want to throw up. So I make sure I have other names. In this whole thing, what I do is like if I'm going down the path of being an actress and I'm doing a lot of auditions and things aren't working, all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, you know what? There's too much attention. Like this goes back to law of attraction. There's too much attention going there. So I'm going to pivot and I'm going to focus on writing right now. Or I'm going to pivot and I'm going to focus on like creating clips of reels so that I put those on Actors Access or Backstage. Or I'm going to pivot, like I just pivot and I take the attention off the thing that is no longer moving and allow that to just, kind of go into the root cellar and like do its thing while I focus on planting these other seeds. And inevitably, that other thing then begins to pop. And it keeps me in a more inner peaceful kind of way of being. And it allows me to just like watch the ebbs and flows and the waves of creativity and life and wait for the things that are supposed to be part of whatever the next big thing is to come in, because things have their time, their place, and you have to let that be. You have to let it flow. So that's where I am.
When you are not making films, what do you like to do? What kind of hobbies do you have?
Dogs. I have 11 little chihuahuas and chihuahua mixes that I've rescued. I've fostered maybe 40 or 50, and I ended up with all the crazy little ones that
Uh,
nobody else wanted, or I fell in love with. I mean, this one, she was born last March the 20th. I delivered her myself.
uh,
I have her mom, and I just fell in love with her
yeah.
and her brother and sister, so I kept them. Sean actually adopted one of that pack. And I'm about to try to do a nonprofit LLC so that I can actually be an animal sanctuary, because I've taken in like people that are very old that die. They'll have like 18 or 20-year-old cats that
Oh,
that the family wants to just go and have put down. So I've taken in
yeah.
many of those, and let them have their beautiful last 2 or 3 years of life before they just age out. That's like a massive passion of mine. And then the other compartment of my life is all about working out, biohacking, longevity. I'm massively into peptides right now, and exploring like how peptides actually can help us with lengthening our telomeres, fixing mitochondria, healing things that are maybe autoimmune issues. I mean, I have watched my skin and my body transform so much in the last 3 years based on these different peptides. It is absolutely amazing. So that is a huge part of my life, and it's more than just a passion. I'm working with a company called Do Not Age, and I'm going to be one of their ambassadors. And so I've got a bunch of videos that are going to be posted. So I do a lot of UGC. I work at TikTok Shop Live with these really cool Chinese girls from Singapore and Beijing that are just wonderful. I love them. And yeah, I do a lot of different things and I always keep active. And then I have two kids that are about to graduate college. They're my sweet buddies and part of my my heart and my passion. And we're like the Three Musketeers, even though, I didn't have kids at 20, but I did have them young. Yeah, they'd see me as like their peer and for better or for worse.
Ed and Deb, both, could you tell us about any projects that you're either currently working on or planning to work on? Anything you'd like people to know out there or be aware of?
Well, I've got Crave, which just came out, and I was doing so much of this press that I didn't do anything for Crave. So now I've got all these different interviews that I've got to get out and clips and all this other stuff. And actually Ed plays my husband in the flashbacks in Crave. So, I definitely want to encourage everyone to come and watch that. And it's actually along the lines of what we were just talking about a woman who has suffered the loss of her husband, and she is actually, dabbling in getting involved in relationships. And the first person that she gets involved with is a painter who is really messed up and has psychological issues. And she's got her own psychological issues. And, she's got her own issues that she's remembering with the psychological issues of her husband. So, everybody, I make movies about broken people. That's it. I just make movies about broken people. And I also have I have a movie coming out next called Broken because of that. And then another one, it's an erotic horror film called Release, which is really crazy. I came up with the concept when my husband was alive and I pitched it to him. And it was basically about what we were going through with his final late stage cancer and subsequent addiction issues. And so it's called Release. And when I told him the story, about like 4 weeks before he died, he was like, "Oh my God, Deb, that is fucking brilliant. You have to make that film." And he's like, "Whether I'm here or not." And I was like, "Well, where are you going?" And he was like, "You just have to do it. You have to do it." So I'm definitely gonna make that. And then I have a couple different films that I'm doing that other people have written, Fragmented, and this great film that's going to be shot in Atlantic City called The 30th Floor with E.B. Hughes. And then there was something else. There's a writer in Amsterdam who wrote a couple scripts for me. One is this movie, I think it's called The Last Porn Star. And it's just it's like a one woman show really. It should be done as a play. And then there's this other really good one that you'd be really good in, Ed, where I'm a like this high powered attorney who's actually into like some crazy S&M stuff, and she's also involved with the CIA. It's nuts. So yeah, all kinds of different things. But like I said before too, I work with Breaking Glass Pictures, and Breaking Glass, we've got our own weird way of making movies. But I think after I've kind of honed down the way to make these movies really easily. So Jonathan, I think one of your scripts might be really good for one of the projects. Maybe we can even try to get something up in the fall with us and get Sean in, and some of the other people from the cast. And we could do
Yes.
the play saison again. But we should
I,
we should sit down and look at some of these together, the three of us.
Yeah, well, maybe your feedback would be very helpful because the scripts that I've written so far would not work because they're just too high budget. I've written them to require a much higher budget than with the dummy detective. So I would have to greatly redraft, the scripts. But or maybe whether I could even do it with the concepts that I've written so far, I'm not sure. I might have to write a new one, start from scratch. But maybe I'll get your feedback if you don't mind and see
I
what you
would
think
love
about
that.
that. Yeah.
I actually have this fantasy about a noir Trillo and Suede movie where there are chase scenes in Manhattan, and so you have shots of the puppet like this running, and then you see his little feet on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Team America.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I just think it could be so fun to do something like that because I have the ability to do anything for us in Manhattan.
Cool.
I can get us to shoot anywhere. So take advantage of me. I'm
Oh,
inviting it.
oh, okay, good. I will send you the scripts I have, and maybe one in particular that is set in New York City.
Okay.
So that's the one. Maybe there's a way of paring it down to a very low budget. So yeah, let's see.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
How about
So
you, Ed? What do you have going on?
Well, the big thing I want to plug is the movie. Actually, you both saw a screening of it, Top Hate, and that also Sean has a magnificent cameo in that. the funny story behind that was when we started filming Dummy Detective, Joe Queenan, who wrote Top Hate, had been collaborating with this fellow TJ Elliott, whose play I was in at the time that we were filming. Joe and I had become friends, and I mentioned to him I was doing this movie, and Sean Young is starring in it. And Joe said, Sean is the first movie star I ever interviewed. Now, Joe has had a fairly long career writing for the Rolling Stone, Wired, TV Guide, the New York Times. He has a bi-weekly column in the Wall Street Journal still. He does podcasts for the BBC. He's been all over the place, been on TV. He was very well known, humor writer. But he said this is the first person he ever interviewed. And I read the article, and she comes off as being this very likable, sort of eccentric actress. It was done in the early 80s. She was still living in her apartment in Greenwich Village. And the time that he went to interview her, she was like having an algebra lesson because she felt that she'd never really mastered that. And then they went out to eat, and he writes about how this she was absolutely like the most beautiful thing he had ever seen in his life. I read the thing. I said, "Well, I'll tell her I know you." And he said, "No, no, no. I don't know if she's ever read the article. Don't tell her that you met me." Anyway, when we were doing the play, he came to the performance one night, and she came after we had filmed. She came to the performance, and we all went out for drinks afterwards. And they reintroduced each other. And Joe said, "I'm working on a movie, and I want you to have a role in it." So that's what happened. But the film's called Top Eight. It's about a plot to murder a character based on Fred Astaire, and I play a very smarmy, smart-ass butler named Sincox, who's based on the actor Eric Blore. So it's a real fun part. We're going through the festival circuit now, probably going to do what happened with Dummy Detective and go the Film Hub route to have it actually distributed. Then we're working on a couple of other plays with Joe for the festivals. I've been doing some writing myself. I'm also actually a pretty good guitar player, so I've been trying to do some more writing on that as well. So I'm keeping myself busy, but looking for the next real meaty acting part.
Very
Sounds good.
cool.
So, Ed, where is the best place for people to follow your career and keep up to date on your activities and projects? Is there a website or any place?
Just go to AI and type Ed. Um, basically, probably go to Actors Access, and IMDb has all my, has the things that have made the boards. Actors Access has the complete, breakdown profile, and I have a very active mailing list. So whenever I am doing something, I make sure everyone knows.
Nice. And how about you, Deb? Where can people
Uh,
best follow you or find out about where to see your movies and everything?
Best is definitely same like IMDb, whatever, but Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, I'm just Deborah Twiss, DeborahTwiss, and I am trying to get like my TikTok live stuff going and blah blah, but that's like more about sales and getting that no, whatever, it's that's nothing, but yeah, Instagram is probably the best, and then Facebook, there's stuff there, but yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest, and that's the thing that I respond to the most. I get too many weirdos for some reason through Facebook Messenger. So
And for the movie, The Dummy Detective, everybody out there go to thedummydetectivemovie.com. That's the place that we frequently update with all the platforms, all the links to the platforms where you can watch the movie. Go there, check in there frequently. And it also has on that page, it has links to our social media. So, and reviews, a bunch of things. That's the easiest place, thedummydetectivemovie.com. But you can look for us directly on Facebook, we have the Dummy Detective page, and on Instagram, we have the Dummy Detective page as well. And then I have a few other things. The YouTube channel is now also called, recently renamed, the Dummy Detective Movie. That was previously called the Trillo and Suede channel on YouTube. But now that we have this movie released, I wanted to focus as much attention on the movie as possible, so I renamed the actual channel as the Dummy Detective Movie on YouTube. But if you have the old link, it still works to the same place. So either way, that's the best place to keep up with all the things like all these interviews, this interview and a lot of other ones and clips from the movie and everything you'll see on the YouTube page, as well as on Instagram, as well as on that Facebook group. So all those places. Ed, as well as Deb, thank you very much for this chat. That was
Thank
really,
you.
really fun and
Thank
nice to
you.
be able to connect with you and reminisce about our experiences together and all kinds of things. We hope to see you again soon, maybe another chat in another format. We'll talk about that. And everyone out there, thanks for watching and listening. So stay in touch, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.